Welcome to Changing Lanes with Hartz and King. I'm Hakima King.
I'm Jerry Hartz.
Yes, and today we have a very special guest in our studio.
Yes, we do.
Yes,
I call her Patti Fervin, but she's now Patti Robertson.
For like 30 many years.
But talk about changing lanes. You have changed and kept many lanes for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So you have PMI Virginia, which is a rental company. It's a long-term housing rental company.
Property
management. So how many houses do you have in that?
We are managing about 470 units right now.
I am so glad I asked you that because my last count was at 250, so that would have been way off. So one of my favorite accolades that you did was the president of the Tidewater Real Estate Investment Group for many years of that. Then now you've got the group, the Landlord Virginia Association.
We kind of did a break off of the Tidewater Real Estate Investors Group because they focus on all areas of real estate investing, which I was involved in for a long, long time. But now I do strictly rentals. So we have kind of a side group that's the Hampton Roads Landlord Association that meets once a month. And so we run that.
You're very helpful. Like whenever you see something really important that is a law coming up or a bill coming up that really needs attention, you're always tagging me, and you really pay attention to who you know in your circle that's going to be affected by whatever's happening. So I really appreciate that. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So we do corporate housing, obviously, in midterm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to talk about the difference and then the advantages of your long-term rentals and why it's important for everybody to stay in their lane or perhaps change whatever they're comfortable with. But that's the whole point, is to let everyone we know have as many ideas and information that they have so they can make good decisions. So,
Right.
Yes.
For me, and people always think I'm crazy because we live in Virginia Beach, Virginia. We're in a tourism industry.
Right.
People say, why are you not doing short-term rentals? And, I've done long-term rentals since 2007. And the systems and platforms I've looked at it. I have a lot of friends in the industry. PMI as a franchise has a huge, the majority of our franchisees do short-term and mid-term, but it's a totally different business model.
Okay.
It's different software, different platforms, different business systems. And so I've just chosen to focus on the one and focus on it and grow it as big as I can. And so that's
you've done a good job with that. 400.
Well, there's people a lot bigger than us. Our goal is to get to 2,000.
So you have over 400. You have the systems. How many people in your core group, and I guess I should say like your office, like if your day-to-day office, how many people does that take?
We have 6 employees and 7 if you count bookkeeping.
Which is a big one.
Yeah, we have 2 remote employees who live in the Philippines, and a boots on the ground here that is in the field primarily, an office manager who does mostly compliance, anything related to books and ledgers, and then my husband Troy and myself. That's our team.
I feel like you've always
and a full-time agent. So we have a full-time leasing agent and listing agent.
Which is perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a lot. And your brain powers always amaze me. So we actually went to high school together, and I watched Patti, just seriously, I can't, we've talked about this before, that I can lean on, I know who to lean on, but I can't retain a lot of information that I need to. You can spit things out, and it's like a gift that you have that I think is amazing.
Right.
So between the law and then this is a cute story that I wanted to tell about Patti, that when you're right and don't be afraid. So you having problems with one of your tenants, and you take him to court, and the tenant was actually at the bus stop.
Oh, this is true.
Yeah. So the tenant was at a bus stop trying to get a ride to court. She just pulled over and was like, "Get in the car."
I actually took him back. So we had an eviction at 10 o'clock in the morning, and he tried to get an emergency expungement of the eviction. So we all had to go into court at 9 o'clock in the morning. but we had to jimmy back really quick to the house because the eviction was at 10, because of course it got overturned. We don't do anything unlawful. But I needed him to get the rest of his stuff out, and he had to wait for the bus. So I said, why don't you just hop in? You can go with me.
Did he hop
So
in?
yeah, I
Of
saw.
course.
Yeah, I mean, we were cordial. You
Yes.
know, we didn't have a bad relationship.
Right.
So yeah,
That's important.
yeah, he was a tattoo artist. Honest. He actually paid off his bill a couple years after.
he was
It was
evicted.
all a good story. So karma is important. You treat people right, and they treat you right.
I find that very important.
Yeah.
Now, Jerry knows you, like you said, from high school.
Uh-huh.
And I had the pleasure of meeting you.
Yeah.
You know, Jerry introduced us.
Yeah.
But I want you to tell our guests that are watching out there, who is Patti? Who is Patti? 'Cause you're
If you're
amazing.
not, yeah,
Okay.
you are amazing.
I mean, I'm a mom. I have 2 kids, adult boys. Live in Virginia Beach. Was born in upstate New York. Came here. I sort of call myself a franchise junkie because, from a business standpoint, I grew up in the franchising world, and I'm in PMI is actually our 4th franchise brand. We've been in 4 different franchise brands
And this
over time.
Is this your favorite?
It'd be like asking who's your favorite kid. Really, that's hard.
Right.
But I mean, Great Clips has been an amazing franchise. We're still Great Clips franchisees too. We just passed our 25th anniversary in that.
That's awesome.
But
so you have PMI, Great Clips.
we started with Jackson Hewitt.
Okay.
And then decided that the writing was on the wall. I went to a conference with a bunch of Blockbuster franchisees, and this is in 2005.
Right,
And they were all flipping out, talking about what their strategy was going to be because Redbox was coming in and internet was taking over.
Right.
And they were building a strategy to buy real estate. They were trying to buy the buildings they were housed in to have a diversification of their assets.
Very smart.
Right. And they decided they were just going to run it until they were they were all to the end. Right. All the inventory was gone. So I came back from that and started thinking, the industry I was in also had the threat of the internet. So we started looking for something to replace that. And that's how we got into real estate. So we ended up buying a Homevestors franchise.
Right.
We Buy Ugly Houses, which is an amazing franchise, amazing brand. And we knew nothing about real estate. We weren't intending to get into real estate. We looked at a whole bunch of different concepts. But that's what we landed on, and we started flipping, wholesaling, holding, and that's how we landed in real estate. Very quickly, I got my agent's license, so so we could save money. I never wanted to be like a queen of real estate like Jerry, as an agent.
You're so sweet.
But I wanted to save money, so then got my broker's license, and people started asking us to manage their rental properties, and that's sort of how we became where we are. Yeah.
Right.
Wow. That's amazing.
It
That's
is
a good
amazing.
story.
Yeah.
So, and then it goes back to real estate is, I feel like a wealth builder.
Oh, completely.
It is because, and we determined that early on too. Flipping houses is a replacement of a job.
Yes.
It builds income. It doesn't build wealth.
Right.
Whereas holding property can build generational wealth. Right. So it's good to have both. You need
the
income.
Cash. You need the
to have
cash,
right,
to get the next property to hold. So you have the one, and I'm even watching you and your portfolio, the way you're doing things. So
I'm learning.
You're learning, but you're learning as you go and grow. And you're flipping here and there. You've held the whole time.
I've held the whole time.
It's hard to flip now.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to buy and hold now too.
It's also scary too, though, because I find my next move, and I always say I want my next move to be my best move, because, like you said, taking a property and then holding it for generational wealth, but also using that property to actually build wealth as well.
As a tool, money is a tool, and you need to figure out how to use it.
Yeah.
So I'm learning as I go.
Right.
And I trying to. And I don't know, for some reason, I find every one of my properties, I have sentimental value to every one of them. That's why, I'm like my kids. I want to hold. I want to get them and hold them.
Yeah.
I don't want to sell them. And
and it's a great. This is a great difference between you guys as your businesses are your babies. Like you're saying, you can't, and your houses are your babies. But I've seen you go through some property and not worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, we sold some.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
Just
we pruned our portfolio. You know, like you prune a tree.
Yeah.
You know, you define what
You know
you
what's
want,
what for
and
you,
you sell some off and build more in your area that you love.
so that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Pruned. Right, you got these
Pruned.
little- Yes,
Yeah.
very good. All right, good. Well, so you talked about the systems, which I feel like if you're going to scale in any situation, you need a system. So, and with over 400 properties, I'm sure that are you relying on AI at all for this stuff? Do you feel like
We do use AI. We use it for on our website for incoming leads to build
like
new
you
clients.
chat back
Right,
with
but
them?
we're also using it in maintenance right now. So when
Oh,
our
how does that work?
Yeah,
How does that-
yeah.
how does
We
that-
need some assistance on that.
Yes, yes,
when
so-
our work orders, I can give you a vendor, but when our work orders come in, the AI does the initial troubleshooting with the tenant because it's
it's
not
saving
always
up-
a real problem.
Right.
Sometimes it's fixable. It asks them to troubleshoot based, like have you already tried the plunger? Have you, if it's a dishwasher backup, have you already found the Allen wrench and
Have you done your little
it?
thing?
yeah, because it's going to save you a lot of money.
It's like
Right,
yeah,
right.
Get a
That
plumber to
little
come out.
wrench right there, I've learned.
Five,
Yeah.
in my
5
own
millimeter.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
And then if they can't fix it that way, it prompts them to send in photos. So the vendor that goes,
That is so awesome.
yeah,
Like I don't even think of these things.
I know
that's
because
like
we're troubleshooting. You're AI, and so am I. Like,
we are both AI
Yes,
in the
we-
flesh.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you have to go to conferences and get involved in the industry to learn all the
All the-
options because
yeah.
they're the vendors show up at conferences.
I know, but I mean, even as cool as we try to be, we're not. And
but we also don't. We're not dealing with 400 properties either, and that is. I'm pretty sure that tool is a plus.
But there's-
Yeah,
when it comes
it's,
to dealing with a
it
lot.
saves time.
And I feel like I'm overwhelmed with like 4 or 5 properties.
but that's because we're doing it ourselves.
we are.
So
Yeah.
and there's excuse me, there's a gift with that, but there's also like just learning how to let go, and because we do want to scale,
We do.
that's a goal.
And we got to find all the twos. So when we do scale, that we'll be successful
Right.
with it and not be overwhelmed and bite off more than we can chew.
Right.
So,
And have because every time something bad happens, it's Friday night, you're sitting out to
It
dinner.
is Friday.
Oh,
night.
yeah.
It
And
is
the tenant,
Friday
and
night.
you have to put the tenant in a hotel, and
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I have had to do that. And then yesterday I was at my goddaughter's graduation, and I could not believe it. The dishwasher had a sign on it that said "Do not open," and I was like,
I know.
I was like, what happened here? I know. I wanted to open it really bad, and Catherine was so funny. She's like, yeah, when Evelyn graduated high school, the hot water heater went out. So Murray fashion, she was just like, something's going to go wrong. So it is like that, where the best laid plans.
Yeah.
So that's all. Little silly stuff that we all have to deal with. It is no fun, but that's really interesting. Send us a picture. So AI can look at the picture and say exactly what.
Well, it's not. We're not using it to that extent, but it's
You could
pulling
see the
in
picture.
the data so that the vendor will know what tools to take.
Gotcha.
awesome.
To
To do it that way.
save time on the troubleshooting end.
Okay, so you've got AI, and then what other tool, what other system would you say is the best, like for someone? Like, is it answering service? Do you
Are
have
we talking about like for long-term rentals?
Yeah, or just your business. Yeah, long-term rentals. I would, because we need to keep it in the.
I mean, screening and some of the different tools we use
We-
for detecting fraud.
So
We might need to talk about those after break.
we're
Yes.
definitely going to take a break and get back to that because that is a big
So much
one.
fraud right
Yes.
now. Yeah.
So guys, we are live on Changing Lanes with Hartz and King. Thank you for joining us. Please leave us a comment in the box down below in our chat box. And if you have any questions and you want to ask Miss Patti a question while we're here, send us a message. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the screening
And all the fraud that's in the rental market these days.
it is a lot of fraud.
Yeah.
So, guys, this is some important information. So, join us back at Changing Lanes with Hartz and King, and thank you for joining us live.
Have you ever wanted to dress like a Hall of Fame broadcaster, but didn't know where to begin? In 2018, Aaron Phillips was inducted in the Las Vegas Entertainers Hall of Fame, and The Voice was born. Aaron has been part of many successful podcast programs, and branding those programs plays a vital role. Visit thevoice.qbstores.com and order the latest embroidered products featuring the logos of many of Aaron's shows. Discounts and flat shipping rates are available on all orders, regardless of quantity, on men's, women's, and kids' apparel, and many accessories. Visit thevoice.qbstores.com and let Aaron's voice speak to you.
Hi, I'm John P.G. Stiles. Some people call me JPEG. You can probably guess why. I'm the founder and partner at WWDB TV. Does your business need a commercial, or do you already have one and you just want to get the message out there? Do you need a sizzle reel? Do you need an audition tape for a part that you're up for? Or have you ever thought about hosting your own show? Well, this is the place, WWDB TV.
Welcome back to Changing Lanes with Hartz and King. I'm Hakima King.
I'm Jerry Hartz.
Guys, you can catch us live on our Facebook page at Changing Lanes with Hartz and King. Also, you can catch us later on YouTube at Changing Lanes with Hartz and King. Please like and follow us. WVBV TV as well. We're live there. And thanks for joining us. Go ahead and leave us a message if you have a comment or a question for Miss Patti. Go ahead and leave us a comment below and we'll answer while live in our show. But before we went on break, Miss Patti, we were talking about the fraud and
There's so much fraud in the rental market.
Yes.
On both sides.
Right.
I mean, there are overseas scammers pretending to be landlords, claiming houses that they don't own,
Right.
and stealing
Right.
money from unsuspecting tenants. And it's crazy because it's been going on for over 10 years and
It
people
has.
are still getting
Yes.
fooled by it.
Mhm.
But on the same token, tenants, for about, if you Google fake pay stub, for like $4 these days, you can buy a fake pay stub, fake bank statement, fake tax return.
Wow.
Just because people give you data, you can't believe that it's true.
right.
So we've had to build in a lot of systems
Mhm.
to eliminate fraud, to try to identify fraudsters.
Sure.
Wow. So if
Sure.
I said I was a general manager of Blockbuster or Radio Shack,
We would know that there was a
We would
problem.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we would. We're not that.
But even the fake pay stubs, they used to be easily identifiable as
Right.
identified as fake, and they're getting better and better and better. So now we do require pay stubs, but then we use a third party. There are third party vendors now
that
check to verify that the money that somebody claimed they got paid actually flowed through their bank account. So
Wow.
it's a check and balance.
So how do you guys screen? Like, let's talk about the screening of long-term tenants. I know that is like, I've done long-term tenants for a couple years.
Yeah.
So how do you do it?
We have an application on our website.
Mhm.
We verify their identity first. We do an identity verification, and their ID, they have to take a selfie, and their ID has to match their selfie.
Mhm.
And then the AI, I guess, is looking at the actual identification. Has to be a state issued ID.
Right.
And if it looks fraudulent or if there's a flag, then they fail that.
Right.
And then once they pass that, we do the income verification. So we collect the pay stubs or whatever proof of income they have. Doesn't have to be pay stubs. And then we verify with the third party that it acts just like a mortgage
Right.
underwriter would do. You have
right.
to verify that the money actually
Right.
flowed through the bank account.
Right.
Yeah. And then we pull credit. So I don't personally have a credit score requirement. I know that's most property management companies and landlords do. I don't.
Mhm.
I mean, young people don't have credit. There's a lot of people who don't have a lot of credit.
Right.
So what we use to deny people is if they have accounts in collections.
Right.
So we don't use credit score.
Gotcha.
I see
Oh,
that.
that makes sense.
Because I've screened before, maybe a few times, and I saw the eviction. I love that
Yeah.
pops up there.
Yeah.
Collections. What about 3 times the?
Yeah, so
Their
we have
income.
an income requirement, and I suggest publishing criteria up front.
Right.
Well, we
So
put it
they know.
right on our website, right in our ad. It's in every single ad. I don't want to churn people's application money. That's not our goal. I don't want to waste my time.
I started to see that now in a lot of midterms. Like
Yeah.
it's like you got to pay application fee.
Right.
And I think that is there's a lot of scamming out there with that too. Like you have to do the application fee to even get for them to look
A
at
showing.
anything else.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
yeah, we publish it up front so people can preferably self-screen themselves
yeah.
out.
Now long term, I get it, but
Yeah.
for midterm or short
That's
term,
crazy.
I think that is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some people do that in long term too. They
No,
pay a fee.
I
or-
think
or
it
apply-
is
yeah.
required in long term, but
Yeah.
when it comes to midterm and short term, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
why do
We
Okay,
don't
I don't-
require that for
there's-
showing.
There's a lot of homeowners that are getting ready to rent their houses, and they don't understand why you want to hire a management company.
Right.
And I think just listening to everything that you're saying right now is worth the
Definitely.
money.
At least hiring someone to do the screening,
Right.
if nothing else.
Yeah.
Right. Right. It's I mean, even with wire fraud, for regular real estate, that people don't realize that that's one of the things we have to talk about.
Right.
As soon as somebody signs a contract, it's like, this is the attorney or the settlement agent. Make sure when they ask for wire instructions that you call them
Right.
before you push
Yes.
that button, because the money just
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then you don't get it
away.
back.
It's gone. So the fraud out there is so scary. And we had
So unique though nowadays. I
It's-
mean, they could think of anything.
Yeah.
You think about like Easy Pass, and I mean, there is what my daughter called me the other day, like, hey,
Parking.
red light ticket.
right, the tickets. That's
Yeah.
exactly. Isaac's just forwarded me something on a ticket, like a little. He's like, "Mom, is this a scam or not?" Because it's
They're not going to text you. They're going to send you that letter, like they send me that letter,
Yeah.
and they're going to have you take a picture of this thing and show your video of you running that.
Yeah.
right.
It's real.
It's all, yeah. It's all
we
crazy.
had recently we do to ward off squatters. We do vacant property checks. I mean, every agent needs to check their vacant
Right, yes,
properties.
absolutely.
And so we do that, and we found this woman in our house, and she claimed that oh no, I have a lease. You know, I gave somebody $1,800. I went to the PMI office. The agent said that she was too busy to go in the office. She had me sign the lease in the on her
The hood of the car.
hood of the car, gave me the key, and so we called the police. And so the police say, well, you need to come file a report. We filed a report, and we said, if you're legit, we'll figure it out.
Right.
Sign a rental application. So, but she didn't. So we moved her out. Well, we called her in again.
Same house.
Same house. Call the police
She said,
again.
"Yeah, this is my house."
Right. Call the police again. Inside the house, she has a folding table set up in the living room with a credit card printer, a stack of blank credit cards, and a list of piece of paper with people's names and social security numbers.
Wow.
She
how
was just
scary.
a scammer.
Yeah.
The police hauled her off. She had warrants, outstanding warrants. They put her in handcuffs and took her away.
Wow.
The
That's
whole,
crazy.
the whole premise that she had a landlord try to scam her was a lie.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is scary. Now it makes me want to go. Well, I always keep a close check on my credit. That is one
Yeah.
thing I do. As soon as somebody runs it, it'll send me an alert.
Yeah.
Sure.
Nowadays it's just getting so like now they have credit cards and she can make a credit card.
Yeah.
payment. Yeah. Yeah. This is crazy. Now I see a lot of stuff in my field.
You do see a lot of
But
stuff.
I mean, you hear about it, but just like sometimes it sounds far fetched because it's like you see it on TV or you see like, just
I
outrageous
had a woman
stuff.
this week, and they get so angry, screaming at me. She put in a rental application. The job description was something really nebulous, like performance optimizer. I'm like, what is that?
Oh.
What do you do exactly?
I need to call her.
Well, I have to find, it was the description she gave me was
it's
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And her pay stubs didn't look optimal. So I said, well, we'll check this out. So I went to the and so I sent her the income verification. Of course, she says, "Oh, I use Chime or my bank accounts won't validate."
Right.
I'm like, okay. So I look her employer up on the state corporation commission website. It's not even registered to do business in the state, and yet she's giving me a pay stub that shows Virginia withholding, Virginia this. I said, "Where do you physically go to work?" It was just a total scammer. The business was made up. It didn't exist.
And she just didn't think that you were
Oh,
going to
and
do your
she
homework.
called and screamed. She was so irate. You have to give me my application feedback. I said, I'm sorry, no, ma'am. No.
You're like, no, I'm not going to do it.
No, you put me through a lot of work,
So-
to deny you.
That you're just because we were in a social situation the other night, and we were talking about how we're both a little bit of rose-colored glasses, and to
Yeah.
hear what you go through in a day, I
Yeah.
would be home exhausted, like with a wet cloth on
I
my
find
head.
it. I find it entertaining.
And I think
I
that's
just-
the difference.
Right, because they
Yeah.
probably don't expect you to like find this, and
Right, like
then question you about it. Like, how could you? Like, people really get upset about
Yeah.
being in the wrong.
being caught.
Yeah, it's like the audacity
Yeah.
of you. You're not the police, and you caught me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you're doing too much, lady.
Right. Exactly.
Just doing what I'm supposed to do, not to get scammed.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, I mean, on a good note, I had, we have a couple people in from the Philippines, and the note that we got to say that they had their jobs looked funny to me.
Yeah.
So I just called the recruiter,
Yeah.
and luckily they called back, because I was like, you know, and it was a Centera, but it was like, it didn't have like the regular letterhead, and it just
Yeah.
looked really funny.
Yeah.
So, but it actually turned out to be what it was.
Yeah.
So I just want everybody to know that we do our due diligence as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, because it is scary, and you don't want anybody, I actually try to meet as many people at the door, you know, if it's, you know, kind of an Airbnb, that they come through Airbnb and they don't want to meet you. That's one thing, because you've collected the money, they've done the screening and all that. We do use systems like that do the screening
Mhm.
for us. So there are different platforms out there that are easier. So okay, so give us some advantages for a landlord that is trying to decide which way to go. Like, if you were going to say, I think you should do,
I mean, I think they need to run the numbers.
Right.
You know, run the
What numbers
numbers
work for
and
them, yeah.
and identify how much time they have, because obviously it takes a lot. The more terms you have,
the
the
more
more
time
time
it is.
it takes. So you have to determine, is this extra profit that I might potentially have worth the amount of time it's going to take?
Right.
They're all personal decisions.
Right. It is.
For sure. And especially as you do start scaling, I'm really like just thinking as we're like
Mm-hmm.
chatting, as you start scaling, and you need a lawn person, you need a handyman, you need somebody that's going to be painting, you need someone that's going to be fixing the outdoor moisture issues and going underneath and checking for rats, and, you know, all the things that, you know, you have to take, but you're not taking care of one single family home, which is overwhelming to a lot of people. You're caring for 400.
Right, but my goal for every unit is to have the longest run of uninterrupted rent payments possible. So I want my tenants to stay forever.
Right.
Whereas
Be happy.
you're
Yeah.
shorter your term, the more money you make.
Yes.
You know, it's different.
It is different.
It is. I mean, we do want them to stay as long as possible. You know, at least three contracts, like
Yeah.
extend 3 times. But I mean, I get excited when, and I hate to see them go, but you know, you have a new person coming in.
Yeah.
So, and we set the standards, and we also get to pick and choose, and not really like pick and choose, but you get to, like, people are reaching out to you, insurance companies or companies,
Yeah.
and you kind of like, well, they're going to take the risk for the person.
Right.
So I like that. Too.
Right, I do too.
So, but it is I say a little smaller risk sometimes, but a big reward.
Mm-hmm.
So, and with our short term, we're in and out of the properties often.
Mm-hmm.
So in your leases, do you have a clause where you get to come in and just check on things, like in case you accidentally
State
get
law
approved?
allows it. So
Right.
we don't, I mean, we do annual inspections, but
Right.
state law, if there was a reason that we needed to do something more often, state law, there's
Lets
no
you.
limit on the number of times you can inspect. So
So
yeah,
that, I
we
mean,
just
'cause I
have to
think
give
that that's
notice.
just one of those things that's really important. And like, not as a control freak thing, but just in case there's a leak and maybe they're out of town for the week, or
Right.
they're, you know, not paying attention and it's
Right.
under the sink. I mean, I had a regular condo listing, and it was actually a co-op. So luckily it was a co-op, because the building was in charge of fixing. It was just a perfect leak, and the little ladies upstairs were older, and they started getting forgetful.
yeah,
But anyway, they had a leak under the sink, and they didn't even know it until it like came
yeah.
down. So it's things like that where
We had a military tenant one time, and our tenants are supposed to notify us if they're going to be absent for 2 weeks or more. But he
Right.
didn't, and he was gone for months and months and months. And it was a waterfront Willoughby. It was a waterfront condo,
right.
and a rat had eaten a hole from the outside of the siding and got inside, and the whole place was infested with rats. His parents came in town to prep the unit before he left, and there was a dead rat drowned in the toilet.
Oh, wow.
But had we known, we could have been checking on the
Right.
unit. We didn't know,
Wow.
you know.
So that's important.
That things can happen in a vacant
Anywhere,
property over
yeah.
a couple
Well,
months.
and like our viewers, and we have all age groups that we are trying to reach. And there's young people that are coming out of college and high school, and they're going to start renting, and these things are not, when your landlord or your roommate, whoever you're moving into is saying, please let me know. This is why it's not
Protect everybody.
Yeah, it's not because they're
We want to be nosy and see what's
right.
going on in the
No,
place.
like
So.
if you're coming and going, or
Yeah.
you think, oh, I got the chills. Oh,
Right.
those rats.
Right. You're like,
We're in a waterfront community.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. Oh, yeah.
and I've had that where my long-term tenant, like, I guess there was an issue with the hot water heater. I didn't know it. They were there for 2 years.
Yeah.
So, but when I come in, I take the property back over, and there were decent tenants.
Yeah.
I could see the watermarks coming
They didn't
down.
want to bother you.
Yeah, but let me tell you, 2 weeks after they moved out, it came down 3 stories.
Wow.
That is like,
Wow.
I could have like mitigated that situation.
Absolutely.
I don't mind.
And I don't think people
Yeah.
realize the power of water. The two things that have the most power: fire and water.
Yeah.
So it's like clean the dryer vent.
Right.
Clean that.
Yeah.
That's why
Very
it's there. You
important,
pull it
yeah.
out and you get the lint out and you toss it. And
Yeah.
then, I mean, fire's my worst nightmare, you know. So, and then the water's very heavy. So if it's on the ceiling and you see a little mark, once you see it, it's coming. So make a phone call.
Yeah.
Just make a phone call.
Right.
So
Well, Patty, are you going to stay with us for the entire hour? Or are you running out?
It's up to you.
we
up
would
to
love
you.
to keep
Yeah,
you.
we
We would love to keep you.
Okay. And we'll talk about your different hustles, because you have, like, we're just in the real estate, but you are just multifaceted and amazing with what you do. So definitely want to talk about that. Yeah. So we're going to take a break with Changing Lanes with Hartz and King, but when we come back, we're going to more with Miss Patty and just the ultimate hustle in you.
Okay.
Yes. All
So
right.
you have lots of energy.
Are you feeling overwhelmed or stressed? Remember to take a moment for your mental health. At the Mental Health Moment, we believe in the power of self-care and community support. Our mission is to encourage and empower individuals across generations to prioritize their mental well-being. Our program called CARE takes you through community, awareness, resources, and education so we can support you every step of the way. Join us at the Mental Health Moment. Visit our website or follow us on social media because your mental health matters. Remember, take a moment for your mental health. Hey everybody, I am Aaron Phillips. You are?
I'm Governor Val Brown Klingelhofer.
And we host what kind of show?
We host the most fabulous show on this network you've ever seen. It's all about Kiwanis and what's going on in our different cities.
And Kiwanis Connects is the title, and you can watch us every Friday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. Pacific time, right on Facebook or WWDB-TV. Say goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Aloha.
Welcome back to Changing Lanes with Hartz and King. I'm Hakima King.
I'm Jerry Hartz.
Right. And we're back with Patty. We're just going to continue throughout this hour because I know you got some great advice. And you're, like I said, you're an ultimate hustler before I went on break. Patty, when it comes to like some advice you would give to any young person that is trying to start out in life, right? And they just think like, I'm not ready to buy a house. I can't do this. And then, I just got to go get a job and make it. What would your advice be to that?
I mean, I guess think about even talking to my kids. So many parents push kids to go to college.
Right.
And in my opinion, there's a lot of and I did go to college, but there's a lot of opportunities without going to college. We need trades so badly right now. I'm talking hairstylists, plumbers, HVAC guys, carpenters. There's a huge electricians. There's a huge shortage. And the young people don't like to work with their hands as much as people of prior generations. But what they have trouble seeing past is they don't have to always be the guy that's out doing the welding.
Right.
They could learn the welding trade and then they could eventually employ the welders, and they could own the very established, wealthy welding business that does government contracting. So I think there's a lot of ways to, to get your feet on the ground and make money, because the only way you're going to get ahead in life is to make more than you spend. So, people don't always keep track of that. And then my favorite business tool, people always like to look at how much money do you make? What do you make a year? My favorite business tool is a personal financial statement. So it's like a balance sheet. It's your financial report. And I think you should do it every year because it's very rewarding. It's hard to look at your rental portfolio of your 5 houses and to say, well, this is what I brought in last year and this is what I brought in this year. Yeah. It's a very little jump. Very minuscule.
Little. Right.
And when you're buying them with mortgages, even your profit is very minuscule in the beginning. But when you start putting together your personal financial statement and you're looking at your assets minus your liabilities, you have equity growth that happens very faster than you realize. And so when you look back 5 years, 10 years at what your personal financial statement looked versus what it looks like now, it's the most rewarding business report.
I think so too, especially with as a realtor, ebb and flow, depending on life, depending on how much you get, what you put in this job, it is what you put in is what you get out. So, and depending on the year and what's going on, but with the real estate stuff, it doesn't matter if my spending, like I'm like, oh, I can retire, like I'll be able to retire, like that's how I just like alleviate my stress, like in my day to day, because I know I could pick up the phone and start hustling again and doing whatever I need to do to like make some quick cash, but and I think and I don't, you're a little bit a generation behind us, and actually I see your kids working harder than a lot of kids, and my son works pretty hard, but
my kids work their butts off too.
So but I feel like there was somewhere in there where they didn't.
There's a lot of parents don't make their kids work. School should be the priority. I mean, school is important. I'm not saying it's not. And if you have a kid who has to focus on,
and maybe he's going to be a doctor or scientist or something, you have to study.
But I worked since I was like 14. I never didn't have a job.
Same thing. I've been working since I was 14, but I was that parent that didn't want my girls to go and work until they graduated high school. And only because I wanted them to kind of focus on school, because the more I felt they focused on school, the freer school could be. So I wanted that free college education.
You wanted to make sure they made good. So that was their job.
So that was their job. So, but if they got to that point, where we couldn't afford that, it's like, all right, well, let's go into the workforce. Now you go into the workforce, but I'm just thinking, working since I was 14, and here I am 42 years old, and I'm still working.
But aren't you having fun?
So yes. So I get, but fun is in a different route. Fun meaning now I know that I could sustain my own lifestyle with the fruits that
your fruit.
Yes. And if I wanted to ever let this go, I can. So yes, I'm in a different headspace now, but just think if I remember those years that I didn't, I knew I had to go in there and work to make ends meet with my kids. But now, it's different. So yes, I went in. I say I go to work because I don't have anything else to do but spend money.
So when you go, we talked about this in previous episodes where we were in survival mode for a long time when we had our kids. We're like just day to day, like, oh my God, how are we gonna like figure this out? So it's a very freeing time when your children kind of go off, but. So were you ever in a survival mode, like when you were starting your?
I mean, our big night in the beginning when we started business was to go out for 10-cent shrimp night at Pastrami Joe's.
Tell us about this story.
I wish I had known that. Princess Anne Road.
Oh no.
I mean, just when we were young, my husband and I bought our first business at the age of 25. We got married. Took a loan from family. I could not have done it without a loan from family. And we bought our first Jackson Hewitts, Jackson Hewitt stores. But, we had to live on my very meager salary. I didn't get paid a lot. And because he was launching our business. And
was he a tax guy?
No,
Look at that. So you
No.
mean tell me you bought your first tax business?
Yeah,
And
he
wasn't a
employed the best tax preparers. Still, they're among the best.
I
You know,
know.
they're so smart.
But look at that. So I don't think people think I got to have that skill, like you said.
Right.
I
earlier.
don't cut hair,
and
and yet I
but it
employ
looks
100
amazing.
hairstylists.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
See that. But
and your hair always looks good.
right.
Thank you.
But people, I think that we probably need to put that more on our kids. Like, you know what? You don't have to be, like you said earlier,
Right.
you don't have to be the best welder. Just learn the skill
Right.
and employ the people to do it.
People don't realize how much skill sets are transferable either. You know, like my salon managers, for example. You know, being a hairstylist, your arms are in the air, you're standing on concrete floors. It's, unless you're in the industry, you don't realize it's a really hard job on your body.
Yes.
That's why you don't see a lot of older hairstylists. They go and do something else. But those jobs are very when you know customer service and you know management, that's transferable into many other
it's like
And
industries.
it's needed
tables.
too, because
It's like
I'm
waiting
just
tables.
saying
Yeah.
that is that's a needed skill and needed profession. And
Well, just being able to speak to a person and say, how can I help you? And like when that's an intimate job, cutting hair. Like I honestly think that would make a very good real estate agent,
Yes.
because it's like you are focused on what that person wants. And if they leave with their hair choppy, they're not coming back.
Right.
You know, but so they have to, and in Great Clip, it's like 15 minutes. You got to do it quickly. You know,
That's because we're just cutting hair.
right.
Yeah.
Right. But no, but I mean,
Yeah.
really, they have to
Yeah.
be intentional with, do you want your bangs done? What do you want? You know, do you want to feather? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
I just think it does. It teaches very good interpersonal skills. And as you grow, and so my circle is, luckily, I still always want new clients. I always want new clients, but I'm very blessed that I have repeat customers that come back, you know, every few years, and their children come back, and you know, all that. But it's because I try really hard to listen and say, okay, what, you know, I got a guy that texted last night, and I had to really think about what he wanted, because he's kind of all over that. I'm like, can we hone in this? You know, he's wherever, whatever. I don't know. I was like, well, don't you need a garage? Don't you have a boat to store? You know, and he's like, oh yeah, I need a garage. So you but you learn from working with people all day long how to ask questions and listen. So I think we talked about that in another episode, how important it is to listen.
And I think generationally, times have changed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, younger people value their personal time way more than people of our generation.
right.
And
They do.
right. And we can't ignore that fact. I mean, we have to adapt more to them. But but they do, I mean, they still have to work hard. That doesn't change the fact that they still need to work hard and have some hustle if they want to get ahead. Is it harder? I think it's harder now than it was, you know, when we were starting. But
well, not only that, but so
you have to make more than you spend.
You have to make more than you spend. They have to realize that it's taken all of us a while to get to the house that they were raised in.
Right.
And the first house that we had didn't look like that.
Right.
You know, and so they're expecting to just go out and buy this property, and it's like, no, you have to get the shoebox first.
So
you know,
society says it. You know, sometimes it's like, you know, somebody else has this, and that's their first house. Like, why can't your first house just be
your
small 2-bedroom house? And you know, you look at that as to build your wealth.
Right.
You know, so
and especially it's like, because right now, like if somebody's 25 or 20, 18, whatever, and they're buying their first property, it's like, make it small, because you're going to be coming and going like the wind.
My oldest son, both of my sons own houses, but my oldest one has literally the smallest house in Virginia Beach, I believe. It's a 750 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath townhouse.
But it's perfect.
But it's in Virginia Beach,
and there you go.
His mortgage is $600 a month.
I love it.
And that you know you can do that,
and he can cash flow it when he gets ready. He's saving his money to buy the next house, and it will cash flow as a rental.
Right. And so talking about this, right? As a mom, would you, like, say if your son was now 20
Mhm.
right? He wants to move out and get his first place.
Yeah.
Would you suggest he rent or would you suggest he buy?
Well, at 20, he probably doesn't have the financial stability to buy, would be my guess. I mean,
But if he did,
like, what kind of a job would he have? Like, hypothetically.
let's say 20.
Mhm.
Let's see.
He's an apprentice at the shipyard.
Yeah.
So at 20 and as apprentice, he would be making probably $25 an hour,
I know.
but it would be guaranteed.
So it depends on what his goals are. I mean, is he going to stay in Hampton Roads? Is he going to move? I mean, there's so many things.
You're
that
right.
depend.
There are so many different variables.
Hi, Daryl.
Yes.
Thanks for
yes.
joining us.
Yes, thanks. Yeah. So what about, all right, say 22 now or 25. Let's go to 25 because
Okay.
25 might be a more like,
Yeah, because
More
boys
stable.
don't leave the house.
yeah.
I mean, if somebody can afford to buy and it's not a bad financial decision, and if they, especially if they could rent it and cash flow it, if
At
their
a later
life
date.
plans change,
Mhm.
it's always a good time to buy.
So did you guys hear that? You buy I always encourage this because we never know what life is going to throw at
Yeah.
us, right? So you need to buy at a level that you're comfortable with,
Very comfortable.
that
with.
will definitely sell or cash flow. And the cash flow for long-term wealth building is key, I think. I mean, really, I think we all want to be in a position to hold real estate, either hold or 1031 a tax exchange into your next one that you're going to hold later. So however that works.
I say your first house shouldn't be your dream house or a house that you like, you know what, this house with these marble floors. That's what I see myself as.
Yeah.
I always say that first house should be
It's your practice house.
it's your stuff. Yeah, it is. It definitely should be your training house. You know,
Mhm.
but you know that your mortgage isn't changing because the rent market
Right.
goes up and
The
down.
rent market is
Yes.
crazy.
Right.
So
So, what have
yeah.
you seen in the last, just say 3 years? Because I think,
I mean, I'm embarrassed to even say.
Right.
You know, right now in the last 2 years, it's really, especially in the last year, rents are stable.
Okay.
They are not increasing and
But they're-
even maybe somewhat declining depending on the market. Not in the high-end market, but in the traditional rental market.
so
But
in
if
Virginia
I look
Beach-
back at what we got 3 years ago or 4 years ago to now, it's crazy how much more we're getting in rent.
So
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're a homeowner that bought 6 years ago, your cash flow is 1.5 times what it was easily, right? As far as because your mortgage stayed the same, your mortgage
Yeah.
is the same, your mortgage payment is the same, or maybe you have the house paid off, but your rent.
I
got
think
to
with
go
the
up.
increase in property values, your taxes are going to go up on your places. So I mean,
Sure.
I know what Portsmouth we got hit with 27% in a year, and that was major.
Ladies, before we go to break, I have a comment that came in that I will share with you since you cannot see the screen for your own safety,
Yes,
by the
yeah,
way.
yeah. Thank you for
This comes from Las Vegas. As a 20-something veteran with a credit score of 580 or more, you can buy a house for $0 down and pay only closing costs.
Not only can you buy a house, veteran, friend, very proud of you. Thank you for your service. You can also buy a fourplex.
Yes, you
So
can.
you could buy 1, 2, or 3 units. So you could buy a fourplex, live in one unit, and rent the other 3 and have rental income.
I like that.
Yeah.
Very
I mean,
smart.
we're in a military area, so we have
Yes.
lots of people doing
That's
that.
what I love about Virginia. It's
Yeah.
definitely transient, and
In
it's
Virginia Beach,
definitely
yeah,
yes.
Tidewater, Hampton Roads, and we have pockets, transient, and then and transient not in a bad way. When we say it just means
We have a lot of people moving in and out.
Yes,
Yeah, a lot
yes.
of
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because transient can be taken the wrong way. But and I say it all the time, so you guys know why I'm clearing
Yeah.
it. So I'll just be quiet now. But
But that's actually good enough. I keep thinking about going to the military just because all these benefits I keep hearing about are
oh
amazing
yeah,
benefits.
we did one where we were going to go back as private King and private Hartz instead of private
Private
Benjamin.
eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't work so well. I don't think. I think I'd have an asthma attack and fall out, but
Yeah.
that's all right.
But yeah, with those kind of benefits though, I would suggest, and I know it's not for everybody because not every area is an area that you can rent something out. It just depends on
When you're young, though, like this person was 20. You don't really generally you know, you don't have the baggage of kids and worrying about school, so they could go in a very good rental area. You know,
Yes.
it does might not have the
Yes.
best school district,
Right.
and
Right.
you know, just building hack.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Until
And that's, exactly. So that's the difference between a hack and so house hacking versus corporate housing. So a house hack would be you living in your house and then you rent the room. Or
That's what I do.
yes, you definitely house hack. You're a hacker. When you hear these different things, so everybody gets their little private lock on their doors, maybe a locker in their kitchen for their food. Most of the time when you have people sharing houses, everyone's nice and they don't eat each other's food. But
Yeah, we have an open concept.
yeah, I mean, it's
like a family style.
It's an adult, hopefully, but well, maybe not at 20, but there's just so many ways. There's so many ways to make the money and I mean, your daughter's doing it. She has a roommate and, again, you just,
I mean, even non-military can use the FHA. And as a first-time home buyer, I know in Virginia we have grant money, right, for first-time home buyers.
We do.
So even a civilian who doesn't have military benefits can buy a fourplex with no money down.
I
right?
just think that is the main question you always ask as a first-time buyer: what grants are out there? Because there's Virginia housing that's out there that is state, and then there are federal funds, and depending on your career, you know, there's like the hero programs where
it's amazing.
Yeah, the teacher, police officer, firefighter, nurse, anybody that works in any of these facilities. You don't have to be. I mean, you could be the janitor and you qualify for these grants, and that's 15 grand. You know, and then that's the federal grant. The VA funding, the state funding is 2.5% of your down payment. So I just had a nurse, actually she was an audiologist, and she came to the table with her earnest money, which was $1,000.
And she may have even gotten it back at closing.
Right. She could have something, whatever, however. But so that's what I'm saying. There's so many ways, and it is overwhelming because housing is crazy. Like the prices, the shoebox that I call them smaller houses are over 200 grand. So if you're going 3.5% of that, you know, just for your down payment, you're at $7,500, and then you need your closing costs. So hopefully your realtor's asking for the closing cost assistance for you. But if you're in a hot market, you're not going to get that, you know, so you do need some money saved one way or another. So I guess that's one of the questions is how do you get, I mean, you can get gift letters from people. These kids just need to know they've got to hustle.
It's not coming to you
and
for
make
free.
more than they spend.
And make more than they spend.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes you want to just let the name brands go. Let that nice car that you want go for now.
I buy my clothes at the thrift store most of them.
Listen, I go to Walmart. You know, and this is Amazon. I probably pay like $9 for this.
I shop Temu.
Yeah. But I mean, when you have a goal, you have to just scale back for your goal.
Yeah.
And as a parent and as now that I know what I know now, I would say buy that house at 25.
Right.
And get you a roommate and then let them pay your mortgage.
Yes,
and then you don't have to worry about anything. Now you hustle.
Right.
Right, for free.
Yeah.
You live for free and let somebody else pay your bills. So
well, that's how I describe landlording is that I mean, if you have the benefit of having a state job or you might have a pension. If you're military, you have a pension, but there are very few jobs with pensions anymore.
Right.
Being a landlord is one of the only ways to get your retirement funded by other people.
Right. That's what I'm finding. Yeah.
And it's I think it's hard for people to concept. I know I don't have any water for you. I'm sorry. It's a really difficult concept for people to, unless you do it, people just don't quite understand it. But you have this house, your mortgage just says $1,000. So your rent there that you're getting is $1,500. So you've got $500 extra coming in.
I mean, you do have to have money for repairs and
absolutely. But still, it's the $500 you put that in the account, so you have it. So when the hot water goes or whatever, you have the money to pull from. But it's still coming from the tenant. You know that you still have this asset and then at the same time that you're paying your mortgage down, the equity is growing.
Right.
Like so at this, you have two ways to make real money
and the tax deductions.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Right.
Oh yeah, let me say the tax deductions are a little too good at sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
Well, and I come from a very dynamic family. We've got 5 kids, and we've got all different opinions. And it's funny, like, because I really do believe money is a tool, and you just need to figure out how to use it. And
Yeah.
that's why we're here, is to help everyone
oh yeah,
figure it out. But it's not out of greed. It's not out of anything except for making sure that in our future we
oh,
are
yeah.
comfortable. We don't have to move in with our children,
Right.
And then if we, God forbid, lose our minds, we can afford help.
To be taken care
The
of.
best
Right.
care, yeah.
Mhm.
Right. So that's what this is all about. So,
So before we go, changing lanes is also about, well, changing lane podcast is about that change in life. We always talk about either you in your own lane or you change lanes in life. But what would you give any of our listeners that's listening to this and they're in a crossroads right now in their life? And
do you have
maybe
a good story?
yeah,
I don't know about a
Some good
story, but
advice?
I would say I believe in diversification of income and diversification of assets. And doesn't always have to be a change to add a new crossroad. You don't have to choose the path. You can go down both paths
oh, I
at
like
the
that.
same time.
Oh, I like that.
So I mean, you have worked a career and done real estate.
Right.
You have done many, many different hustles. Having diversification of income and assets, and it might be your assets might be, you put some money in the stock market, you have some money in a 401k,
Right.
you have some money in houses. That gives stability. It protects you when
Yes.
one industry might change, one employer might change, if you get sick. I mean, it just having
I like
diverse
that.
income,
Mhm.
I think, is a benefit of it for everyone.
I think that's really important. And I love you could do 2 things at once. You could do
Yeah.
7 things at once.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely 2 roads. So that is very important. That's good advice, and I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So yeah, so it's okay to work a job and then also still follow your
Yes.
dreams. So
Yes.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be heavy. Like, it doesn't always have to be this, oh my God. But, you're telling all these kids that, my goddaughter graduated from high school, and I'm like, don't let anybody pressure you, just relax.
yeah,
And meanwhile, like, we're doing this podcast, and it's kind of serious stuff, that
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Right.
So it feels heavy, but it doesn't have to be. It can
It
just
doesn't,
be,
right.
like,
right.
we're here to enjoy life,
And
really.
we're all on our own time. And I always say, no pressure. We're all on our own time. And everybody acts like, when are you gonna retire? And I'm like, when the time is right for me.
Right.
When it's right for me is like,
Mhm.
I'll let go and then I'll, move on to this full time and not put as much time in. But I definitely want to enjoy.
Yeah,
enjoy the rest of
enjoy
my
the
life.
ride.
Yeah.
Always enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
So I think it's
All
awesome.
right. Well, can you leave our viewers with a word of wisdom?
Word of wisdom.
Yeah. Besides taking both lanes.
Oh,
is a good
I would
wisdom.
say the best mistakes to learn from are those made by other people. So as much as you can, hang out with people in the industry you want to be in, and ask what mistakes they've made. And the more we as successful people can share our mistakes to help other folks, I always share my mistakes.
Right.
I want to learn the mistakes that you've made so I don't have to make them. Right. And people generally like to talk about them. So don't be afraid to ask people who are successful what mistakes they've made.
Good advice. Well, thank you for joining us on Changing Lanes for Hartz and King. This has been a treat for an hour. Yes, can you put your contact information out there, like
For the
anybody
PMI
looking to-
Virginia.
Yeah.
looking to
So our website is PMI, Paul Mary Igloo, or Property Management Inc., Virginia, all spelled out.com. PMI.com.
PMI.
I'm pretty easy. Patti Robertson. I'm pretty easy to find online.
Awesome. And are you your properties all over Hampton Roads?
Yeah, we manage all over Hampton Roads.
Awesome. And if somebody's looking to put a house, like looking for property management, you guys can assist with that as well.
Yeah, we would love to. And we do piecemeal too. So it doesn't have to be full service management. We can just help with
Nice.
just inspections or just screenings.
Just screening, just
Yeah.
whatever it is that
Right.
you need help with.
I would say, guys, if you need property management or if you're looking for a place, definitely hit Patti up. Because it's important to have a good manager and people who, if you don't have the time to do it, it takes a lot.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. So I know it's our passion, but it has to be your passion because it is, there's a lot of stories out there.
Yeah, there are.
So thank you guys for for joining us this week
Yes.
on Changing Lanes with Hartz and King. I am Hakima.
I'm Jerry.
And also follow us. Make sure you guys like and
like and share and
Please
do
do.
everything you need to do. Subscribe. That's the word I was
right.
looking
We
for.
appreciate you guys. Find us on Facebook. We're about to go on Instagram. You know, I think we're
I know.
gonna definitely
We're growing up. We're growing up.
right. And also our YouTube page. Definitely share our videos on YouTube. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in this week. And we'll see you guys next Monday.
Yes.
Changing Lanes for Hartz and King. Have a good week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready to go?